to the September the 15th, 1992 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie, as we bring you the documented history of people that were important to the making of history of Grand Prairie, Texas. And today is no exception. We have a wonderful young lady that has spent many wonderful years in Grand Prairie, Texas, and has agreed to share her life in our history tape number 178. And we have with us today Mrs. Gordon Duff Doris, and we'd like to welcome you to the set, Doris.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Wonderful. It is exciting when we go about our duties and we run into a fine lady like you, and especially when we are helping to celebrate your 80th birthday at a big party at the Senior Citizen Center. And we thought it would just be perfect to talk about your family.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, the first thing we'd like you to do is to look out into your camera and establish your genealogy. Tell us a little bit about your parents, their names, and as much as you can about them.
Well, my father's name was William Pinckney Robertson. He was born in Mississippi.
Oh, wonderful.
And moved to Texas when he was a young man, young. His father's family moved here. And they moved to Waxahachie and then to the little town of Rosser where we lived, and I was raised in Rosser, Texas.
All right. Now, would you give us your mother's full name, including the maiden name?
Mary Lucille Foster Robertson was my mother's name.
Tell us about her folks.
Well, she was born in Vernon, Texas.
All right.
And soon her father was in the Civil War. He was much older than my grandmother.
I see.
And they soon moved out, and they moved to Waxahachie too. And then they moved to Rosser, and that's where Mother and Daddy met. It's at Rosser.
At Rosser, that is a historic place for your family. Yes, it was.
And they married on Christmas Eve.
Yes.
And 1903, I believe.
1903, a magic year, and lived around the Rosser area. And what did your dad do for a living?
My daddy was postmaster.
How wonderful. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah, yes, and he enjoyed his work very much. Even taught me how to help him.
Good.
When I was a little girl.
All right. And being the postmaster and married to your wonderful mother, did they have other children other than Doris?
Yes, my oldest sister, Beth, well, there were 7 of us. My oldest sister, Beth, and she's still living. And then my sister, Lucille Foster Robertson, is deceased. And then John Lee Dempsey Robertson, he lives in Arlington.
All right.
And then my little sister Christine died when she was 9 months old.
I see.
Then I have 2 brothers.
Okay.
William Pinckney Robertson Jr. and Joel Alfred Robertson, and they're both deceased.
Both deceased. All right. And you lived in the little town of Rosser, and that was exciting. Where did you go to school?
Went to school in Rosser. We had a real cute little schoolhouse, kind of typical little red brick schoolhouse with a door in the middle, you know, and finally, right after I graduated, it was turned into Scurry Rosser. They consolidated, but I graduated in Rosser.
I'm wondering, is the old building still standing?
It was the last time I was in Rosser. It's still standing.
Oh, that is great.
Little sandy town.
Have you been back to any of the reunions in the Rosser area?
No. There was 3 in my class, and one of them moved to Fort Worth, and one still lives in Scurry. And I see her occasionally.
With 3 in your class, that must mean that you had more than one grade in a room, right?
We did. We had, I think it was just 2 teachers. We had 6 grades in each room. I mean, not 5 in the last one.
Yes.
But they handled it real well.
All right. And how long did you live in the Rosser area? And when you left there, where'd you go?
I went to Terrell when I was 16, nearly 17. And
was your dad transferred as a postmaster, or did you go and live with someone else?
No, my father had fallen, and he was sick, and so I went to help make a living for the family.
How wonderful.
And I went and lived with my cousin and worked and sent money home so my daddy could get well.
All right.
And he did. He got well of that illness. And then he had a heart attack in 1943 and passed away.
All right. Did you pick up a career in Terrell, or where were you working?
Yes, I worked at a beauty shop in Terrell.
You went to beauty school?
Yes, I went to Marinella School for a little while.
Yes.
And then learned the rest of it by apprentice.
Yes, that
And
is
just real hard work, but enjoyed every bit of it.
Yes.
And I was an operator for 20 years.
all right. And then in Terrell, Texas, let's leave you right there temporarily.
Okay.
And let's get the genealogy of your husband, who was a very exciting, famous person here in Grand Prairie, Texas, known by lots and lots of people. So let's establish his name and his birth date, if you'd like to give that.
His name was Gordon Peyton Duff, and he was born June the 10th, 1910,
All right.
in Kemp, Texas.
In Kemp, Texas, okay.
And they moved to Terrell when he was 15.
All right.
And I met him in Terrell.
All right, but now let's go back and give his father and mother's name and his brothers and sisters, if he had any, please.
His father's name was Osgood Pierce Duff, and his mother's name was Lena Blanche Dover Duff, and he had a brother and a sister. His sister was Flossie Glenn, and his brother Reagan Duff.
And none of them are living at
And
this
they are
time.
deceased
They're
now.
deceased also. All right, and where was he born?
Kemp.
In Kemp, Texas.
Texas.
All right, what does his dad do for a living in Kemp, Texas?
Well, he was a farmer.
Good, okay.
Yes.
So that meant that Gordon helped on the farm when he wasn't going to school.
That's right, he sure did. He was a farmer, and he moved on to Terrell and was a farmer there.
Okay.
And in between times, he was a barber.
Okay.
He did both.
Farming and barbering. All right, could you tell us anything about where Gordon went to school, and then up to the time that you're in Terrell and he's in Terrell? So obviously you met there, but do you know any of the schools that he attended in Kemp or otherwise?
He just attended in Kemp.
At Kemp. At Kemp, Texas.
And I think that was just the 10th grade that he graduated from in Kemp. And he didn't really go to school to learn to be a projectionist, but that's what he learned early. And it was a projectionist work.
That's good. Okay, other than being a farmer and all of the good stuff. Now, how did you all meet? In Terrell, Texas?
In Terrell, Texas.
That's it.
Yes. I was working, our beauty shop was in the back of a barber shop, and one of Gordon's friends came in and said, I have a friend out here that wants to meet you.
Oh.
And from that time on, well, we were going together, and we went together 3 years, married in 1934.
1934. Did you settle in Terrell?
We settled in Terrell. And
you were working in the beauty shop, and he was being a projectionist?
Yes.
Yes.
It sure was. I worked on for quite some time. Dan and Bill were born in Terrell.
All right, now we're into your children. Dan is the first son.
Yes.
Let's give his full name.
Dan Peyton Duff.
Okay, all right.
And
your second son?
my second son is William Gordon Duff. And then Joel Osgood Duff was born in Grand Prairie.
All right.
He's lived his whole life in Grand Prairie.
That's great. All right, now let's get you all moved to Grand Prairie, and then we're going to establish the families of your children. But what brought you to Grand Prairie, Texas? Why'd you leave Terrell?
Well, there's kind of war times, and North American was hiring, and so we moved for Gordon to work out at North American.
What did he do at North American Aviation?
He was a guard.
Oh, in security,
Yes,
a guard. Oh,
yes,
that is great.
Yeah.
And that's where I met him,
And that's
during
yeah,
the war years.
Yes.
You bet.
And he he loved it, and he did other things too. He was, I've forgotten what he did first. Oh, he was projectionist after that. While he was still a guard, he was working on weekends as a projectionist and at the police station.
Oh, that is wonderful. So you let him do 3 jobs so you could beauty shop freely,
and
right?
take care of the children.
Yes. And then you also had a beauty work then on when you came here into the Grand Prairie area?
Yes. My father had died in '43, and my mother moved up here to be close to me.
Yes.
And we fortunately got houses side by side.
How wonderful.
And she had a garage that we turned into a beauty shop, and I worked there about 6 or 8 years.
That is wonderful. And that way you got to be close to the children when they came home from school.
And Mother was there to help me, and I helped her by having the beauty
Well,
shop.
how many of these boys that you've named are Gophers? All of them go to Grand Prairie schools?
Yes.
All right.
Dan played football, and Bill was in the band,
All right.
and Joe played football.
Okay, and tell me a little bit more then about Dan and his family. What school did he go to? Yale?
Yale.
To Yale?
Yes,
Oh, that was exciting, wasn't it?
Yes, I was working out at LTV, out Chance Law it was back then, when they gave the first scholarships. And I had just been there just long enough for him to apply. And so he wrote the letter and applied and was accepted. And he went to Yale on a scholarship.
How wonderful.
He went 5 years and then 1 year to Northwestern and got his master.
That is great. Isn't that wonderful?
He received 2 degrees at Yale, one in metallurgy and one in industrial engineering.
All right, now is he married?
Dan's married to Mary Ann Ruda Duff.
All right. Do they have any children?
They have 1 daughter, Elizabeth.
And that's Elizabeth. We haven't done any show and tell, so let's just stop the music and go back and show a picture of you and Mr. Duff when you all first were married. I think that we ought to have that. If we can pick that up with our camera without the glare on the glass, I think that'll be exciting. Let's turn that down just a little. Isn't that exciting? See, we're going to have that on our historic record. And Mr. Duff looks so macho there with a hat on. It would have been wonderful if we could have had one of him in his guard uniform from North America.
Yes.
All right, then let's show the picture then next of this family we're talking about. And would you hold that up and then point them out for us, would you? Okay. Now this is Gordon, your husband, and this is you. Now name the boys in the order.
This is Dan and Bill and Joe.
Okay, Dan and Bill and Joel, and we're gonna have to hold that down a little. See, isn't that better?
Yes.
Oh yeah, we can pick up your entire family, and that's when Dan was in Yale.
Yes.
All right.
His 2nd year at Yale.
Okay. Now, you have told us about Dan and his wife and your 1 granddaughter. Would you like to pick out the picture of your granddaughter, and let's show and tell that at this time, and give us her name and some good stuff about her, where they live? Okay.
This is Mary. I got it now.
All right, yeah.
Mary Elizabeth Duff.
All right.
And Elizabeth graduated from school at Richmond, Texas, and then she went to SMU.
All right.
And graduated from SMU, and then she went to law school. Now, I believe it's Southwestern in Houston. And she is now a lawyer and working with a group of lawyers, and I'm not sure of the names that she's working
But
with.
she's your number 1 granddaughter.
Number 1 granddaughter.
All right.
Oh, well, it's she is on the floor. That's all right. We'll put her back up.
We'll take care of her after a while. All right. Now, who is your 2nd son? Let's name him and his little family.
My 2nd son is William Gordon, and he has no family. He has just Margaret.
Margaret's his...
He's married to Margaret.
Okay. Where does he live?
He lives in Richardson, Texas.
Richardson, Texas. All right. What does he do for a living?
Well, he's an attorney,
All right.
and he works for a bank. He's the trust officer for a large bank.
That's good. That's
And
wonderful.
and they live in Richardson and really have a good time traveling.
Wonderful. All right, and your third son, Joel, let's name him fully and tell about his wife and his children.
My youngest son is Joel Osgood Duff, and his wife's name is Ann, and she's a love.
Yes.
She really is. And they have 4 children.
All right, let's show and tell on the children as you name them.
This is Jolie Suzanne Duff.
All right. How old is
That's
she and where is she now?
She's 23 and she's teaching in Grand Prairie
Teaching and where?
at Lamar.
At Lamar Elementary.
Lamar
Oh,
Elementary.
that's in my neighborhood. That's wonderful.
Yes,
All right, let's get the next grandchild.
And this is Joel Bradley,
All right.
and he's a senior at North Texas.
All right, and what is he studying?
He's studying government.
Oh, well, great.
He wants to be with the FBI.
That is wonderful. Oh, Gordon Duff would be so excited,
Wouldn't he be
were he
excited?
still living to see all
Yes,
that.
uh-huh.
Okay, now let's get the next two.
Now this is Joanne, and this is Andy Duff.
Okay, all right. Joanne and Andy.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
And tell us about Joanne and Andy.
Well, Joanne is a junior this year
Where?
at South Grand Prairie High School.
Wonderful. You have a warrior in the family, and
Yes.
you've had all Gophers up until this
Yes.
time. All right, and then tell us about Andy.
Andy is, she's freshman, I guess.
All
Yeah,
right.
freshman. And they're both in the drill team. They're
Oh,
both.
great.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And
They're both Cheyennes
they're
then,
both
aren't they?
Cheyenne, and they do real well. They're real good girls, and they make good grades.
Now, what happens when your granddaughters that are Cheyennes are in the Gopher Bowl and all of the background you've had with Gophers and Cheyennes? How does Mrs. Duff answer to all of that?
Well, I have to be careful.
Very careful.
Very careful.
What side do you sit on?
Their daddy was a gopher, you know.
Yes.
But we have a good time.
That is
they
wonderful.
enjoy it.
All right, now you've named all of your children with the exception of your deceased son, and we'd like him in the record.
My deceased son was Robert Dover Duff, and he was second child.
Second child.
And he died at 3 months.
Yes. All right, now, we have your family here in Grand Prairie, Texas. You're working at a beauty shop next door to your home in your mother's garage, and then you have Mr. Duff holding down 3 jobs, and you had kids that went to Grand Prairie schools, and especially to Grand Prairie High School, Gophers, and we're always
Yeah.
looking for ex-Gophers. Now, tell us a little bit about the later life. When the war was over and North American was gone, what did you and Mr. Duff do then?
You tested me. Well, he worked at the picture show for a long time.
All right.
And
The Uptown Theater?
at Uptown Theater, well, he started in the old
Wings?
Wings. That's
At
it.
the
I couldn't
Wings,
remember. Yes,
okay.
he worked at all of the theaters in Grand Prairie,
Okay.
and that's what he did while the children were in school.
All right. Okay.
And then after most of them were out of school, and we got the turnpike in.
All right.
Gordon was on the turnpike.
He worked at one of the turnstiles
Yes,
when you would go into the
Yes, uh-huh.
turnpike.
Yes. Yeah, he
Just perfect.
Yeah, he made an attendant in charge, and he loved it.
Yes, yes.
He really did.
And he worked for them for how long until he retired?
I think he was 17 years out there. He retired
Uh-huh.
from the turnpike.
All right. And when he was working at the turnpike, what were you doing?
Raising
you-
the children.
Were you at Chance Vault at that time?
Yes,
what
I was.
did you do at Chance
I
Vault?
was at Chance Vault most of that time. I was a clerk.
Okay.
I was a clerk in the Order and Release Department,
Uh-huh.
and I worked 20 years out there.
20 years and then retired from Chance Vault.
I
That's
retired
great.
from
All
Chance
right.
Vault.
And now both of you all are getting into near retirement and have probably in this story that we're telling. And then what happens to the Duff family?
Well, Gordon retired before me from his work, from
Yes.
the turnpike. And then 4 years later, 2 years later, I retired. And we had 4 years together before he got sick and died.
All right.
And we just enjoyed life.
Wonderful. And would you give his deceased date so that we'll have that on the record, if you remember that?
Yes, April the 1st, 1978.
1978. All right. And since that time, Doris Duff has been doing lots of things in Grand Prairie, because we've watched you with a great deal of interest as you've worked with the senior citizens and have been president of all the world of senior citizenry. So tell us what you've done with your life since you lost Mr. Duff.
Well, after I lost him, I got really involved with the Golden Agers.
All right.
And I was president 2 years of that.
All right.
And then we had the AARP became real strong.
Yes.
And we had that. And now I spend most of my time with the Golden Agers or AARP or with my friends, just enjoying ourselves as much as we can.
At the Senior Citizen Center.
Yes, at the Senior Citizen Center in Grand Prairie. And that is a wonderful place. We have wonderful people down there running the Senior Citizen.
Yes.
There's Tom Anderson and Jesse DeBoard that are, and well, I can't say her first name, Simmons.
Yes.
Sharon
Sharon
Simmons.
Simmons.
They are really wonderful people, and they've been there quite a while. In fact, we were having Golden Age over in the old center downtown when Tom came to town.
Yes.
And so we claim we kind of educated him. But he was a real young man. His first real job, he'd had a job with assistant to a woman in Dallas when he came out here. And they have made a wonderful place for senior citizens.
Of all of the activities they have at the Senior Citizen Center, which is over on Conover Drive near the library, what are your favorites, or what do you do? And I know you assist and help people with the activities. What are you into there?
Well, we just into nearly everything.
I saw some beautiful quilts hanging up there. Are you into that?
Yes. While I was president of the Golden Age, we made one especially nice quilt, the green one that hangs in the room.
Yes.
And we had everybody's name embroidered on it. Let each one embroider their own square.
How wonderful.
And so we did make that. And now we have quilting going on all the time.
That's great.
And they have made several quilts, and they let the women bring the quilts in, and anybody that wants to can help them quilt. And one or two of them have given them to the center. And then we have all kinds of displays, and one of them is this quilt display that they're having right now.
Beautiful.
And it is beautiful. But they're always thinking of real good things for us to do at the
And you
Senior
just had
Center.
Grandparents' Day at the center
Last Saturday.
Oh.
Yes, and it was a wonderful time. I believe it's the best Grandparents' Day we've had.
Yes.
We had more children.
Yes.
We didn't think they were going to come. But boy, when they did, it was really wonderful.
Really fun, and I had fun in the cakewalk.
Did you? Did you get a cake?
I got a strawberry cake.
Well, good. Good for you.
All right. Now, let's tell about your church life.
Well, when we came to Grand Prairie, my husband's Methodist and my mother was Baptist. So he went to the Baptist church with her for a while, and she was a little bit unhappy because she was one among a lot of people, you know.
Yes.
So they started, she was a charter member of Fairview Baptist Church.
Yes.
And she was so happy there, and so then we went to the Methodist Church.
Okay.
And we've been Methodists all the time, raised our children in the Methodist Church.
First United Methodist Church, where my parents attended for many, many long years
And
until
we
they're
knew
dead.
your parents.
Yes.
They were wonderful people.
All right. Did you teach any classes there?
Yes. I've taught nearly every class in the children's division.
All right.
And now I belong to the pace setters class.
I was hoping you would mention the pace setter.
Yes, and it's a wonderful class. I don't know of a class or a group of people that get along and have as much fun as the pace setters do.
And care as much
learn
about each other.
Oh yes, and about the church. They're
Yes.
not just selfish pace
Yes.
setters.
Yes.
And we have some wonderful teachers that have gone out of our class, you know. And then we have really some wonderful teachers in our class. And we enjoy it very much. This past Sunday, we had 63 in our class.
Ooh, that is wonderful. All right, we're getting toward the end of our interview. Is there anything that you would like personally to say about Grand Prairie, Texas, how you have enjoyed living here, or just anything about Grand Prairie you'd like to say?
Well, yes, I would like to say, well, when I moved to Grand Prairie, I thought I'd be going back to Terrell. I just thought surely I would. But we liked Grand Prairie, and Grand Prairie's been awfully good to us. We raised 3 boys here, and Dan was in the 1st grade when we moved here. So our 3 boys have graduated from here, and they're doing real well. And we love the people and the churches, and we've made more friends than I ever could imagine in Grand Prairie.
All right. I'd like for you to look out into your camera before we leave and invite anyone that is a senior citizen. You have 1 minute to invite anyone that's a senior citizen that's not coming to the center. Tell them what they're missing.
Well, if you're not coming to the Senior Citizen Center, you're missing the best time of your life as a senior. We have all kinds of dinners, and we have big TVs, and we play games, and we put on all kinds of shows, well, I don't know.
There's a lot of
Can't get the word.
activities in
There's
it.
always something going on.
You
Always
bet.
some special project that you can get involved in. So I wish everybody that's a senior would join the Senior Citizens in Grand Prairie.
You're a special person, Doris Duff.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for sharing your
I don't feel
life
so
with
special, but I enjoy Grand Prairie and my friends here.
Thank you.
And thank you for having me.
And this is Ruthie Jackson, and we are reminding you that history is as we live and do.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.